The mining colony on Kepler 442b was dying. The distress signal had been broadcasting for 3 days, growing weaker with each transmission. Admiral Vex High of the Galactic Confederation Navy stared at the tactical display aboard his flagship, watching red dots move across the screen like drops of blood. Zephyrian raiders, sir, his tactical officer reported. At least 3 full battle groups. They've surrounded the colony completely. Vex High's 4 eyes narrowed. The Zephyrians were known throughout the galaxy for their brutality. They took what they wanted and left nothing behind but ash and corpses. The mining colony had 12,000 civilians, including families and children. How long until our nearest fleet arrives? Vex High asked. 18 hours, Admiral. Too long. By then, the colony would be nothing but rubble and memories. Vex High was about to order what ships he had in the area to attempt a rescue when his communications officer spoke up. Sir, we're receiving a transmission from an unknown vessel. They're requesting permission to assist. Unknown vessel? Vex High's tentacles twitched with curiosity. Display it. The main screen flickered, showing a ship unlike anything in Confederation records. It was angular and gray, built for function rather than beauty. Strange markings covered its hull and weapon ports dotted its surface like dark eyes. This is Commander Sarah Chen of the Earth Defense Force destroyer HMS Relentless, came a voice through the speakers. We received the distress call and are en route to assist. Estimated arrival time is 4 hours. Vex High had heard whispers of these humans, a new species that had recently made contact with the Confederation's outer colonies. Their technology seemed primitive compared to most galactic civilizations, but something about them made even seasoned diplomats nervous. Commander Chen, Vex High replied, I appreciate your offer, but you don't understand the situation. The Zephyrians have over 60 ships and 15,000 warriors. What force are you bringing? There was a pause. 1 battalion, Admiral. About 800 soldiers. Vex High's bridge crew exchanged glances. His tactical officer whispered, Sir, that's suicide. The Zephyrians will tear them apart. Commander, Vex High said carefully, perhaps you should wait for Confederation reinforcements. This enemy is extremely dangerous. Admiral, with respect, we've dealt with dangerous enemies before. We'll handle this. The transmission ended, leaving Vex High staring at the empty screen. He had seen many brave warriors in his long career, but this seemed less like courage and more like madness. 4 hours later, 3 human ships dropped out of hyperspace near Kepler 442b. They were small compared to the massive Zephyrian vessels surrounding the colony. Vex High watched through long-range sensors as the human ships moved into formation. What are they doing? His tactical officer asked. They're not even trying to hide. The Zephyrians will detect them immediately. Maybe that's the point, Vex High murmured. The Zephyrian response was swift and violent. 20 ships broke off from the colony siege to engage the humans. Vex High expected to witness a massacre, but what happened next changed everything he thought he knew about warfare. The human ships didn't run or try to fight in space. Instead, they launched hundreds of small pods toward the planet's surface while their ships provided covering fire. The pods were dropships, Vex High realized, carrying soldiers directly into combat. Admiral, his sensor operator called out, I'm reading massive energy signatures from the planet. The humans are engaging the Zephyrians on the ground. Vex High activated the planet's surface monitors. What he saw made his blood run cold, but not from fear of the humans losing. It was the opposite. Human soldiers moved across the battlefield like nothing he had ever seen. They worked together with perfect coordination, each squad knowing exactly where the others were and what they were doing. When Zephyrians attacked from one direction, humans flanked them from 3 others. When the aliens tried to use their superior numbers, the humans separated them into smaller groups and destroyed them piece by piece. But it wasn't just their tactics that amazed Vex High. It was their attitude. When Zephyrians charged with their traditional battle cries meant to strike fear into enemies, the humans didn't panic or retreat. They held their ground and fought back twice as hard. When a human soldier fell wounded, his comrades didn't abandon him. They fought even more fiercely to protect him. Get me a direct feed from the surface, Vex High ordered. The main screen showed Commander Chen leading a charge against a Zephyrian stronghold. She moved with calm precision, giving orders while dodging enemy fire. Her soldiers followed her without question, trusting her completely. Bravo team, take the left flank. Chen's voice came through the comm system. Charlie team, suppress that heavy weapons position. Delta, prepare for breach and clear. The humans moved like they shared one mind. They used cover effectively, supported each other's advances, and adapted instantly when plans changed. Most shocking of all, They showed no fear of death. When the situation called for sacrifice, human soldiers made it willingly to save their comrades or complete the mission. Within 6 hours, the impossible had happened. 800 human soldiers had defeated 15,000 Zephyrian warriors. The aliens who weren't dead were retreating to their ships in panic. "Commander Chen," Vexai transmitted to the surface, "how is this possible? Your forces were outnumbered 20 to 1. Chen's image appeared on screen. She looked tired but satisfied. "Admiral, we've been fighting wars for thousands of years. We've learned a few things about it. But the Zephyrians are some of the most feared warriors in the galaxy. They've conquered dozens of worlds. Maybe they never fought humans before," Chen replied with a small smile. As the human ships prepared to leave, Vexai couldn't contain his curiosity any longer. "Commander, I must ask, the soldiers you brought today, are they your elite forces? Your best warriors?" Chen looked genuinely confused by the question. "Elite? No, Admiral, these are regular army units. Standard infantry battalions, nothing special about them." Vexai felt something cold settle in his stomach. "Regular? You mean this is normal for human military forces?" "Pretty much. We have units that are much more specialized for different types of missions. But these guys represent the backbone of our military. Good soldiers, but nothing out of the ordinary by human standards." After the human ships jumped to hyperspace, Vexai sat in his command chair, staring at the tactical display. The Zephyrian fleet was gone, fled in terror from a force they had outnumbered 20 to 1. The colony was safe, its people alive because 800 humans had decided to help strangers. His communications officer approached carefully. "Admiral, should I file a standard after-action report?" Vexai considered this. How could he possibly explain what he had witnessed? How could he describe warriors who fought like demons but showed mercy to prisoners? Soldiers who sacrificed themselves for others without hesitation, yet celebrated victory with quiet dignity? "Yes," he finally said, "but add a special notation. Mark it for immediate review by Confederation intelligence." "What should the notation say, sir?" Vexai looked at the empty space where the human ships had been. "Write this. If these are their regular forces, we need to learn everything we can about what else they have." As his flagship turned toward home, Vexai couldn't shake the image of Commander Chen's casual smile when she called her warriors nothing special. If 800 ordinary humans could accomplish the impossible, what could their special forces do? He wasn't sure he wanted to find out. 6 months after the Kepler 442b incident, the Galactic Confederation Council chambers buzzed with nervous energy. Representatives from dozens of species filled the circular hall, their various forms creating a rainbow of colors and shapes. At the center podium, Admiral Vexai prepared to deliver his report on the newest members of the galactic community. "Honorable counselors," Vexai began, his 4 eyes scanning the assembled crowd, "I present my findings on the human military capabilities as observed during the Kepler colony rescue operation." The massive holographic display behind him activated, showing footage from the battle. Many counselors leaned forward in their seats. Stories of the human victory had spread across the galaxy like wildfire, but few had seen actual evidence. Counselor Threndi, a tall insectoid being from the Hyvac collective, raised one of her blade-like arms. "Admiral, before you begin, I must ask, are these reports accurate? 800 humans defeated 15,000 Zephyrians." "The reports are conservative, if anything," Vexai replied. "The humans lost only 37 soldiers. The Zephyrians lost over 12,000. A ripple of disbelief passed through the chamber. The Zephyrians had been a plague on the galaxy for centuries. Their warrior culture and brutal tactics had made them feared across dozens of star systems. "Show us how they fight," called out Counselor Mextor, a crystalline being whose body reflected the chamber lights. "We need to understand what makes them so effective." Vexai activated the first recording. The holographic display showed human soldiers moving across the battlefield. "Notice their coordination," he pointed out. "Each unit knows exactly where the others are and what they're doing. They don't need constant communication because they think the same way." The footage showed a squad of humans being surrounded by Zephyrian warriors. Instead of panicking, they formed a defensive circle and called for support. Within minutes, 2 other squads attacked the Zephyrians from behind, while a third provided covering fire from elevated positions. "They plan for everything," Vexai continued. "When Plan A fails, they immediately switch to Plan B. When that fails, they have Plans C, D, and E ready to go." Counselor Jekra, whose species had fought the Zephyrians for decades with limited success, stood up. "Admiral, the Zephyrians are not cowards. What made them retreat so quickly?" Vexai switched to another recording. "Watch this engagement, carefully." The display showed a human medic running into heavy fire to reach a wounded comrade. Instead of retreating when the medic was shot, more humans charged forward to protect both their wounded friends. The Zephyrians, who were used to enemies breaking when they took casualties, found themselves facing an enemy that fought harder when their people were hurt. "The humans have a saying," Vexai explained. "They leave no one behind. This isn't just a rule, it's something they believe completely. A human soldier knows that his comrades will die before they abandon him. This makes them willing to take risks that would terrify other species. But surely they have limits," Counselor Threndy argued. "No species fights without fear." "They do feel fear," Vexai agreed. "But they don't let it control them. Watch this." The next recording showed Commander Chen leading a charge against a fortified Zephyrian position. Enemy fire filled the air around her, but she kept advancing. Her soldiers followed because they trusted her judgment completely. "Human military culture is based on something they call discipline," Vexai said. "They train constantly, not just to fight, but to overcome their natural instincts. A human soldier will run toward danger if ordered to, even when every nerve in their body tells them to run away." The recordings continued, showing one impossible feat after another. Humans using captured enemy weapons with deadly efficiency. Human engineers building defensive positions under fire. Human pilots flying damaged aircraft on suicide missions to protect ground troops. "Their technology isn't the most advanced we've seen," Vexai admitted, "but they use it more effectively than anyone else. They adapt constantly. When one weapon doesn't work, they try another. When their equipment fails, they improvise with whatever is available." Counselor Vorthak, a massive reptilian being, slammed his clawed hand on his desk. "This is all very impressive, Admiral. But what does it mean for the rest of us? Are these humans a threat?" "That depends," Vexai replied carefully. "From what I observed, humans only fight when attacked or when protecting others. They showed mercy to Zephyrian prisoners and helped evacuate wounded enemies. But make no mistake, if someone threatens humans or their allies, the response will be swift and terrible." "What about their government?" asked Counselor Mextor. "Can they be reasoned with?" "Human diplomats are intelligent and reasonable," Vexai said, "but they're backed by the most effective military force I've ever encountered. This gives their words significant weight in negotiations." Counselor Threndy raised her arm again. "Admiral, during your interaction with the humans, did they mention anything about their military structure? Do they have specialized forces beyond these regular troops?" Vexai paused, remembering his conversation with Commander Chen. When I complimented their soldiers' performance, Commander Chen seemed surprised. She said they were just regular army units, nothing special by human standards. The chamber fell silent. If these devastating warriors were considered ordinary by human standards, what did their elite forces look like? "I made discreet inquiries during subsequent diplomatic meetings," Vexai continued. "Human officials become very quiet when asked about their specialized military units. They use terms like classified and need-to-know basis. But I did learn that they have something called special forces." "Special forces?" Counselor Jekra leaned forward. "What are they?" "I don't know," Vexai admitted. Every time I asked, human officials changed the subject. But from their body language and tone, these special forces are something they take very seriously. "How serious could they be?" Counselor Vorthak growled. "We've seen what their regular troops can do. How much better could their elite be?" "That's what worries me," Vexai said quietly. "If humans consider the warriors we saw to be ordinary, what does that say about the ones they consider extraordinary?" The chamber erupted in worried conversations. Representatives whispered among themselves, in dozens of languages, all discussing the same question. What were humans hiding? "There's something else," Vexai said, raising his voice to restore order. "During my research, I discovered that humans have been fighting wars on their home planet for their entire recorded history. They've been testing and improving their military tactics for thousands of years against enemies who know all their strategies." "What does that mean?" Counselor Mextor asked. "It means that every human military unit has faced opponents who were just as smart, just as well-trained, and just as motivated as they were. They've survived by becoming better at warfare than anyone else. The Zephyrians thought they were fierce warriors, but they had never faced an enemy that was fiercer. Counselor Threndy stood up slowly. Admiral, what do you recommend? Vex-High looked around the chamber at the worried faces of the Galactic community's leaders. I recommend that we make every effort to maintain good relations with humanity. As long as we're their friends, we have nothing to fear. But I also recommend that we never, under any circumstances, find out what their special forces are capable of. The vote to formally welcome humanity into the Galactic Confederation was unanimous. No one wanted to risk being on the wrong side of a species whose regular soldiers could defeat the galaxy's most feared warriors. As the council session ended, representatives from dozens of worlds made the same mental note. Whatever humans called special forces, it was probably better to never find out what they could do. The Joint Human Confederation Research Station at Wolf 359 was supposed to be a symbol of peaceful cooperation. Scientists from 12 different species worked together in the gleaming facility, sharing knowledge and building friendships across the stars. The station's defensive systems were minimal, just enough to deter pirates and prevent accidents. That's why the Korthak Empire chose it as their target. Admiral, we're receiving multiple hyperspace signatures, reported Lieutenant Hayes from the station's command center. 47 ships, all unknown configuration. Admiral Patricia Morrison, the station's human commander, studied the tactical display with growing concern. The approaching fleet was massive, far larger than any trading convoy or diplomatic mission. IFF. Signals? She asked. Nothing, ma'am. They're running silent. Morrison activated the emergency alert system. Throughout the station, alarms began blaring as scientists and support staff rushed to emergency positions. She opened a channel to the approaching fleet. Unknown vessels. This is Admiral Morrison of Wolf 359 Research Station. Please identify yourselves and state your intentions. The response came in the form of weapons fire. Energy beams lanced through space, striking the station's shields and sending shockwaves through the structure. Korthak Empire vessels! Hayes shouted over the noise. They're broadcasting on all frequencies now. They're claiming this system as Korthak territory. Morrison's jaw tightened. The Korthak Empire was known for its aggressive expansion and contempt for other species. They saw diplomacy as weakness and negotiations as opportunities to gain advantage before attacking. How many people are on the station? Morrison asked. 8,000, Admiral, including 3,000 civilians. Defense status? We have basic shields and 6 defensive platforms. Against a fleet this size. Hayes didn't finish the sentence. Everyone knew it was hopeless. Get me Admiral Vex-High on the emergency channel, Morrison ordered, and prepare all evacuation shuttles. While her communications officer worked to contact Confederation forces, Morrison studied the tactical situation. The Korthak fleet had positioned itself to prevent any escape from the station. Their ships were surrounding the facility like predators circling wounded prey. Admiral Morrison, came Admiral Vex-High's voice through the speakers. I'm receiving your distress signal. My fleet is 18 hours away at maximum speed. Too long, Morrison replied grimly. They'll have taken the station and captured or killed everyone aboard long before then. Can you hold them off? Morrison looked at the display showing 47 enemy ships versus 6 defensive platforms. Negative. We'll do our best. But this isn't a military station. We're not equipped for this kind of battle. The first wave of Korthak assault ships launched toward the station. Morrison watched them approach, calculating how long the defenses would last. Maybe an hour if they were lucky. Admiral, Hayes said quietly, there is one option. Morrison turned to look at her young lieutenant. What option? The emergency protocols, Section 7 Alpha. Morrison felt her breath catch. Section 7 Alpha was something she had hoped never to use. It was authorization to request assets that officially didn't exist, deployed by units that were never supposed to be acknowledged. Lieutenant, are you certain the situation warrants that level of response? Hayes gestured to the tactical display. Ma'am, in 30 minutes those Korthak ships are going to breach our shields. In an hour they'll be boarding the station. 3,000 civilians, Admiral, including families with children. Morrison closed her eyes for a moment, then walked to her command console. She entered her authorization codes and opened a channel that didn't appear on any official communication logs. Priority Alpha transmission to Terra Command, she said, into the encrypted communicator. This is Admiral Patricia Morrison, authorization code 7 Alpha 779. Wolf 359 Research Station is under attack by Korthak Empire forces. Estimated 47 vessels. Civilian casualties imminent. Request immediate deployment of Ghost Protocol assets. The response came back within seconds. Confirmed, Admiral. Morrison. Ghost Protocol assets are being deployed. Estimated arrival time is 12 hours. 12 hours? Morrison looked at the approaching enemy ships. We don't have 12 hours. Hold the line, Admiral. Help is coming. The first Korthak assault ships reached the station's defensive perimeter. Energy beams and missile exchanges lit up space around the facility. The station's shields flickered under the bombardment, while defensive platforms returned fire. Morrison coordinated the defense as best she could, but it was like trying to stop an avalanche with a bucket. One by one, the defensive platforms were destroyed. The station's shields began failing under the concentrated assault. Hull breach on level 7, Hayes reported. They're boarding us, Admiral. All security teams to defensive positions, Morrison ordered. Protect the evacuation routes. For the next 11 hours, the battle raged through the corridors of Wolf 359 station. Human and Confederation security forces fought desperately to protect the civilians, while Korthak warriors pushed deeper into the facility. Morrison coordinated the defense from the command center, watching her people die one by one while the evacuation shuttles took as many civilians as possible to safety. Admiral, Hayes said, his voice tight with exhaustion, the Korthak forces have reached level 3. We can't hold much longer. Morrison looked at the tactical display. Most of the civilians had been evacuated, but her security forces were down to their last defensive positions. The Korthak would break through within the hour. Then something impossible happened. Admiral, the sensor operator called out in confusion. I'm reading 12 new contacts, small ships, running completely silent. Until now. Morrison looked at the display. 12 tiny ships had appeared near the Korthak fleet as if from nowhere. They were so small they barely registered on sensors. Where did they come from, she asked. I don't know, ma'am. 1 second nothing was there, the next second. The sensor operator paused, staring at his instruments. Ma'am, these ships don't match any configuration in our databases, but I'm reading human life signs aboard all of them. Before Morrison could respond, the 12 mysterious ships attacked the Korthak fleet. What happened next would be talked about in military academies across the galaxy for decades. The small human ships moved through space like dancers, dodging incoming fire while striking with impossible precision. They didn't fight like conventional spacecraft. They fought like predators. How are they doing this? Hayes whispered, watching the tactical display in amazement. One of the small ships appeared directly behind a Korthak cruiser, fired a single shot that penetrated the enemy's shields and destroyed its reactor, then vanished before return fire could reach it. Another ship seemed to phase through a Korthak destroyer's hull, planted some kind of device, and reappeared outside just as the enemy vessel exploded from within. Admiral Morrison, came a voice over the emergency channel. This is Ghost Team, Leader. We're taking care of your uninvited guests. Ghost Team Leader, how many ships do you have? Just these 12, Admiral. But that should be enough. Morrison stared at the tactical display. 12 ships against 47, and the humans were winning. No, they weren't just winning, they were dominating. The Korthak fleet, which had seemed unstoppable an hour ago, was being torn apart by opponents they couldn't even track properly. Ghost Team Leader, what kind of ships are those? Classified, Admiral. Let's just say we specialize in making problems disappear. Within 2 hours it was over. The Korthak fleet was either destroyed or fleeing in panic. The mysterious human ships had eliminated one of the most powerful military forces in the galaxy without taking a single casualty. Ghost Team Leader, Morrison transmitted. I need to know who you people are for my report. Negative, Admiral. Ghost protocol assets don't appear in official reports. As far as anyone knows, the Korthak fleet suffered a reactor malfunction and destroyed themselves. But the sensor logs will show equipment failure during the battle. Technical difficulties. These things happen. Morrison understood. Whatever she had just witnessed was supposed to remain secret. But she had to ask one question. Ghost Team Leader, are you Special Forces? There was a long pause before the answer came. Admiral, if we told you what we really were, we'd have to kill you. And we like you too much for that. The 12 ships vanished as mysteriously as they had appeared, leaving Morrison staring at empty space. She turned to Hayes, who was looking at her with wide eyes. Lieutenant, prepare the official report. Equipment malfunction caused the Korthak fleet to suffer catastrophic reactor failures. No human military assets were involved. Ma'am, what about what we saw? Morrison looked at the tactical display, still trying to process what had happened. 12 humans had just destroyed 47 warships without breaking a sweat. What we saw, Lieutenant, is why the galaxy should be very grateful that humans are on their side. As Wolf 359 station began repairs, Morrison couldn't stop thinking about the Ghost Team Leader's final transmission. If these weren't even officially special forces, what were the humans hiding? She decided she didn't want to know. The aftermath of Wolf 359 sent shockwaves through every intelligence agency in the galaxy. Within hours of the battle's end, encrypted communications flew between the capitals of dozens of worlds as governments tried to understand what they had witnessed. Director Zix Thara of Confederation Intelligence sat in her secure office deep beneath the surface of New Geneva, staring at reports that made no sense. The official story was clear. Equipment malfunction had caused the Korthak fleet to destroy itself. But intelligence operatives didn't believe in coincidences. "Show me the sensor data again," she ordered her analyst, a young Kalari named Dexnin. The holographic display showed the space around Wolf 359 during the battle. For most of the engagement, everything looked normal, if you could call 47 warships attacking a research station normal. Then something changed. There, Dexnin pointed to the display. At timestamp 1432-07, we see energy signatures that don't match any known Korthak weapons. Could be new technology, Zix Thara suggested. That's what we thought initially. But look at this. Dexnin switched to another view. These energy discharges are moving in patterns that suggest external sources. Something was firing at the Korthak ships. From where? Our sensors show nothing. Exactly. Whatever attacked the Korthak fleet was invisible to standard detection methods. Zix Thara leaned back in her chair. In 30 years of intelligence work, she had learned that when something seemed impossible, it usually meant she was missing important information. What about the humans? Any unusual activity from their forces? That's where it gets interesting, Dexnin said. 12 hours before the battle, we detected a classified transmission from Admiral Morrison to Earth. The transmission was encrypted using codes we've never seen before. Can we break the encryption? No, Director. Whatever algorithm they used, it's beyond anything in our databases. Zix Thara stood up and walked to the window overlooking the intelligence complex. Hundreds of analysts worked around the clock to keep the Confederation informed about threats and opportunities across the galaxy. But the humans were proving to be more mysterious than any opponent they had ever faced. Dexnin, I want you to compile everything we know about human military capabilities. Start with Kepler, Forum 42b, and work forward. Over the next week, Dexnin built a file that grew more disturbing with each edition. The humans had appeared from nowhere, made contact with the Confederation, and immediately demonstrated military abilities that defied explanation. Director, Dexnin reported, I found references to something called Special Forces in 17 different human communications intercepts. What kind of references? Always indirect. Comments like, we should probably keep the Special Forces out of this, or no need to escalate to that level. But every time the topic comes up, human officials change the subject quickly. Zix Thara studied the communication transcripts. The pattern was clear. Humans had military assets they didn't want to discuss publicly. What have our field agents discovered? That's the problem, Director. Our agents report that humans become very nervous when asked about special forces. They use terms like classified and above your security clearance, even when talking to their own people. So these special forces are secret even from regular human military? It appears so. But I found something else. Dexnin activated a new display. I've been analyzing human military structure based on public information and intelligence reports. Their regular forces are organized into standard units: Army, Navy, Air Force, Marines. But there are gaps in the organizational charts. What kind of gaps? Budget allocations that don't correspond to known units. Personnel records with classification levels beyond anything their regular military uses. And references to operations that officially never happened. Zix Thara felt a chill run through her body. Show me the operations. The display showed a timeline of human military actions over the past several years. Most were straightforward. Peacekeeping missions, humanitarian efforts, defensive actions, but scattered throughout were references to events that had no official records. Here, Dexnin pointed. 18 months ago, the pirate fleet that was terrorizing the Vega system suddenly disappeared. No distress calls, no wreckage, no survivors. They simply vanished. Space is dangerous. Ships disappear. 43 ships don't disappear simultaneously without a trace. Especially not when they were known to be hiding in a nebula that provided perfect sensor cover. Zix Thara looked at the next entry. What's this one? The Syndicate of Geth. Remember them? Criminal organization that specialized in slavery and illegal weapons trafficking. Their entire leadership was found dead in their supposedly impregnable Fortress on Titan 7. Security recordings showed nothing. No signs of forced entry. No evidence of how the assassins got in or out. Could be internal conflict. 27 bodies, all killed by different methods, all at exactly the same time. Director. Someone infiltrated a fortress designed to keep out entire armies, eliminated targets spread across 12 different locations, and escaped without leaving any trace. The pattern continued through dozens of incidents. Criminal organizations, destroyed overnight. Terrorist cells eliminated with surgical precision. Corrupt officials exposed and arrested after their secret communications were mysteriously leaked to authorities. Dexnin, Zixthera said slowly. What you're describing sounds like a shadow military force capable of operations that regular forces can't or won't perform, Dexnin finished. Something designed for missions that never officially happen. How many different types might there be? Dexnin activated another display. Based on operational patterns, I estimate at least 12 distinct specializations. Naval operations, ground infiltration, assassination, sabotage, intelligence gathering, counter-terrorism, and others we probably haven't identified yet. Zixthera sat down heavily. The implications were staggering. If humans had been operating secret military units across the galaxy for years without anyone noticing, what else were they capable of? Director, Dexnin said quietly, there's one more thing. I found references to recruitment standards for these special forces. What kind of standards? The humans have a phrase, only the best of the best of the best. Apparently, being qualified for regular human military service isn't enough. These special forces recruit from the top fraction of their most elite units. So these are the best warriors from a species whose regular soldiers can defeat the Zephyrians 20-1? It appears so. Zixthera stared at the data scrolling across the display. Each piece of evidence pointed to the same terrifying conclusion. Humanity possessed military capabilities that made their demonstrated abilities look insignificant by comparison. Dexnin, how do we verify this? How do we confirm that humans have these special forces? We don't, Dexnin replied. Every investigation we've attempted hits classification walls. Every inquiry gets redirected. Every attempt to gather evidence results in our agents being politely but firmly told that some subjects are not open for discussion. What about other intelligence agencies? Surely someone has more information. I've reached out through unofficial channels. The Altarian Intelligence Service, the Kepler Security Bureau, even the Zephyrian Military Intelligence. What's left of it after Kepler 442b? They all have the same story. Humans have secrets, and those secrets involve military capabilities that nobody fully understands. Zixthera walked to her secure terminal and began typing a classified report to the Confederation Council. After 30 years in intelligence work, she had learned to trust her instincts, and her instincts were screaming warnings. What should our recommendation be? Dexnin asked. Simple, Zixthera replied without looking up from her report. Whatever. Humanity is hiding. We make absolutely certain we never give them a reason to stop hiding it. 2 days later, the Confederation Council passed a classified resolution. Humanity would be given every diplomatic courtesy, every trade advantage, and every benefit of the doubt in all future negotiations. The resolution didn't explain why, but every council member understood the unspoken message. Some secrets were better left undiscovered. 1 year after first contact, the Grand Assembly Hall of the Galactic Confederation had never seen such a gathering. Representatives from every member species filled the massive chamber, their varied forms creating a spectacular display of galactic diversity. At the center of it all, a delegation of humans sat quietly, seemingly unaware of the profound impact their presence had made on the galaxy. Admiral Vexhai approached the ceremonial podium, carrying an ornate crystal artifact that caught the light from hundreds of sources. The Protector of Peace award had been given only 7 times in the Confederation's 1,000-year history, and never to such a young species. Honored representatives, Vexhai began, his voice carrying clearly through the chamber's acoustic systems. We gather today to recognize a species that has fundamentally changed our understanding of courage, honor, and military excellence. The human delegation sat with quiet dignity. General Maria Rodriguez, Admiral James Chen, and Ambassador Susan Martinez represented Earth's military and diplomatic leadership. They looked comfortable but alert, the way professionals did when surrounded by important events. When we first encountered humanity, Vexhai continued, we thought we understood warfare. We had seen the Zephyrian berserkers, the Korthak battle fleets, and the systematic campaigns of the hegemony. But humans showed us that we had only seen the crude beginning of military science. The chamber's main display activated, showing recordings from Kepler 442b. Even a year later, the footage of 800 humans defeating 15,000 Zephyrians still seemed impossible to many observers. Human military doctrine has brought unprecedented peace to our galaxy, Vexhai announced. The Zephyrian Empire has abandoned raiding in favor of diplomatic solutions. The Korthak have signed their first non-aggression treaties in centuries. Pirates and terrorists have fled to the rim worlds, unwilling to risk human intervention. Scattered applause filled the chamber. It was true. The galaxy had become remarkably peaceful since humans had demonstrated their capabilities. Most conflicts now ended with negotiated settlements rather than prolonged warfare. Therefore, Vexhai raised the crystal artifact. It is my honor to present humanity with the Protector of Peace Award in recognition of your service to galactic stability and your commitment to protecting those who cannot protect themselves. As Ambassador Martinez accepted the award, Vexhai noticed something strange. The human military officers were whispering among themselves and smiling. Not the polite smiles of diplomatic ceremony, but the amused grins of people sharing a private joke. Ambassador Martinez, Vexhai said after the formal ceremony concluded, your military colleagues seem to find something entertaining about today's proceedings. Martinez glanced at General Rodriguez, who was still grinning. Admiral Vexhai, I think they're just enjoying the irony of the situation. What irony? Well, Martinez said diplomatically. The galaxy is celebrating human military capabilities based on what you've seen so far. But from our perspective, you haven't really seen our military capabilities yet. Vexhai felt that familiar cold sensation in his stomach. What do you mean? General Rodriguez leaned forward, her eyes twinkling with amusement. Admiral, everything you've witnessed, Kepler 442b, Wolf 359, all of it, has been handled by our conventional forces. Regular Army, standard Navy units, basic special operations. Basic special operations? Vexhai repeated. The teams that hit the Korthak fleet were good, Admiral Chen added. But they were just one of our Tier 3 units. We have 5 tiers of special operations, and that wasn't even our best Tier 3 team. The conversation was taking place in a private reception area, but Vexhai noticed that other alien representatives were drifting closer, pretending to examine the refreshments while listening intently. How many tiers do you have? Asked Counselor Threndi, who had given up all pretense of not eavesdropping. Officially? 5 tiers, Rodriguez replied. Unofficially? Well, let's just say that some of our capabilities don't appear on any organizational chart. What's the difference between the tiers? Counselor Mextor asked, his crystalline body reflecting his nervous energy. Tier 1 is what you saw at Kepler 442b, Rodriguez explained. Elite conventional forces, Rangers, SEALs, Marines Force Recon. Very good at what they do, but they operate more or less like traditional military units. And Tier 2? More specialized. Delta Force, SAS, Spetsnaz Alpha Group. They handle missions that require surgical precision and absolute secrecy. Tier 3? That's where things get interesting, Admiral Chen said with a slight smile. Tier 3 units don't officially exist. They handle problems that need to disappear completely, without any evidence that intervention ever occurred. Vexhai thought about Wolf 359. 47 Korthak ships had simply vanished, leaving no trace of what had destroyed them. And Tiers 4 and 5? The humans exchanged glances. Let's just say that we hope we never need to deploy them, Rodriguez said quietly. But surely you must have limits, Counselor Vorthak protested. No species has unlimited military capabilities. You're right, Martinez agreed. We do have limits. That's why we're launching our newest initiative. What initiative? Vexhai asked, though he was beginning to suspect he didn't want to know the answer. Space Force, Rodriguez announced, her grin widening. We're establishing a dedicated military branch for operations beyond Earth's atmosphere. The reception area fell completely silent. Every alien representative was now openly staring at the human delegation. Space Force? Threndi whispered. But you already have space-capable military units. Sure, Chen replied. Our Navy operates in space. Our special forces deploy throughout the galaxy, and we have various classified programs. But those are all extensions of Earth-based military doctrine. Space Force is being designed specifically for galactic-scale operations. What does that mean? Mexistor asked. It means we're developing military capabilities designed for the unique challenges of galactic civilization, Rodriguez explained. Different environments, different technologies, different scales of operation. How different? Vexahai asked, though he was afraid of the answer. Well, for example, our current special forces are trained to operate on planetary surfaces or individual space stations. Space Force will be trained for operations involving entire star systems. The implications hit every alien representative at the same time. Humans were already capable of impossible military feats using forces designed for their home planet. Now they were creating forces specifically designed for galactic warfare. When will Space Force become operational? Threndi asked weakly. The first units should be ready for deployment within 2 years, Martinez replied cheerfully. We're very excited about the possibilities. As the reception continued, Vexhai found himself in conversations with representatives from dozens of worlds. The message was consistent. Whatever humans had shown them so far was apparently just the beginning. Later that evening, Vexhai stood on the observation deck of his flagship, looking out at the stars. His communications officer approached with a datapad. Admiral, we've received intelligence reports from across the galaxy. Every major government is implementing new diplomatic protocols regarding humanity. What kind of protocols? Maximum cooperation, immediate response to human requests, and under no circumstances should any action be taken that might be interpreted as hostile toward human interests. Vexhai nodded. It was a sensible policy. The galaxy had learned an important lesson over the past year. Humans were not just another species with advanced technology. They were something entirely new, a civilization that had turned warfare into a precision science. Sir, his communications officer continued, there's something else. We've been monitoring human communications, and they keep mentioning something called full-spectrum dominance. What does that mean? We're not sure, but every time it comes up, human military officers get the same expression that General Rodriguez had today. Vexhai looked out at the stars, thinking about humanity's casual announcement of Space Force. Whatever full-spectrum dominance meant, he was certain the galaxy would find out eventually. Make a note in the official log, he told his communications officer. Today, humanity received the Protector of Peace Award. Also today, they announced their intention to expand their military capabilities into realms we haven't even imagined. Yet. Should I recommend any specific actions, Admiral? Vexhai thought about the past year, about impossible victories, mysterious special forces, and humans who casually discussed military capabilities that defied comprehension. Yes, he said finally. Recommend that every species in the galaxy remember this simple fact. The humans are on our side, and we should do everything in our power to keep it that way. As his flagship prepared to return to Confederation space, Vexhai couldn't shake the image of General Rodriguez's amused smile. Humans had just been honored for bringing peace to the galaxy, using what they considered their basic military capabilities. The galaxy was about to become a very different place, and Vexhai wasn't sure anyone was ready for what humanity would do next.